Cheers, successful 2023.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'll talk about whatever. My life's all kinds of crazy.
Hit the bell!
Because you have an Android.
Oh, yeah. That's what it is. Just suck.
Just subscribe already. This thing literally bends. It can go up, down. I mean, you can do whatever you want. If you can try to get it closer to you, you can just pull on it. It will not break, I promise.
All right. I don't want to break your equipment.
No, you're fine. And if it breaks, it's whatever. You good over there?
Yeah.
Got everything going? Mm-hmm. Cool. You ready, you think?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Adam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You guys, YouTube's telling me that 75% of you guys are not subscribed. That's absolutely insane because I upload almost every single day. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe with the bell so you guys never miss a video. We are not so much crunch for time, but I want to make sure you can get out of here on time still today too, because I know you're a busy man.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to get you on for a little bit now, and I kind of want to let everybody know who you are and how you came into my life. But I also want to know, like me personally, that's one of my favorite things about the podcast is that I get to actually really get to know the people that are in my life that I kind of lean on a lot, and you're one of those guys that I definitely lean on you whenever it comes to something really important in my life. Like whenever I'm coming to Adam, I'm putting a lot of responsibility or a lot of trust in you, I'd say.
That's one of the best parts of my job is that when people come to me, usually they have some kind of either big problem or life-changing issue that they have to address, and I get to kind of be there with them through it. So that's one of my best parts of my job.
Yeah, so anyone that's listening that doesn't know you, you're a lawyer.
Yep.
Or attorney.
Right.
What's the difference?
Same thing. I think that it depends on advertising.
Okay.
Apparently, attorney searches better by Google. But a lawyer is more of a country term and more rural. And so a lot of people in more rural areas will use the word lawyer. In more cities, attorney. Also, sometimes city or attorneys more associated with like big firms, like St. Louis, mega firms and stuff. But in reality, there's no difference.
Oh, okay.
So both.
But yeah, because I didn't want to put a label on one because I just wasn't really sure.
I didn't even know that answer till I started like advertising, and I had to search it and like research. I'm like, what's the difference? Why are one searches better?
Sure. So I kind of, I want everyone to know kind of how I found you too, because it was a whole interesting part of my life. I never thought I would need an attorney in my life. Like other than like when you're young and you just get pulled over and get a speeding ticket. That's the only reason I ever thought it. And I just, you just pay the speeding ticket. You get someone to pay the speeding ticket. I never really thought it was that big a deal until I actually started doing business in my life. And then and then I needed an attorney. And I went with one, and I thought it was just like a speeding ticket attorney where you just go in and say, hey, can you help me with this ticket? And they get it reduced and you move on with your life. But it was totally different whenever you have a business and it affects your business. If you don't have somebody on your team that you can, because I put all of my trust in this gentleman that I used before, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against the guy, that it just didn't work out. And so that's how, whenever that happened, that's when I really realized, like, hey, an attorney, not just a good attorney that's good at their job, but also a good attorney that you can work with. Whenever I reach out to you, it's a very comfortable experience. And I just sent a gentleman to you the other day, and he had, like, I recommended him. I was like, give Adam a call. Like, he'll get you all fixed up, everything like that. And he had sent me a text. He's like, well, he didn't answer. I'm like, well, yeah, he's a busy guy. Like, he's not just sitting around waiting for you to call, but he'll get back with you. He'll get back with you eventually. And so that's something too because a lot of people just like instant. Like they want to call someone, have that instant feedback. And it's not that simple, at least not in your case. And I'm sure some of it, because I really like to have, like my banker, I have her personal number. I like to be able to text her. But like I had Lynn Mannels and Scotty Eilers on the other day, and they say the same thing. A lot of people want to text them, but they're like, you really need to call in the 911 because everything has to be documented. And I'm sure it's the exact same thing for an attorney or a lawyer. I'm sure are very similar. Is it? I mean, because you never know what's going to go on. Do a text message, and it probably needs to be documented in some way, or a professional level in some way.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's getting to the idea of kind of there's a different relationship, especially with the lawyer and their client, in the sense that there are clients that I sometimes get to a level where I can text with them if I know them well enough. I mean, you and I text about some stuff, but there gets to a point when things can get lost in text communication. People want what they think is a simple answer, but would really take a 2-page text.
Sure.
And then if I sent them a 2-page text, they really feel lost. With our associates, a lot of times, because it's kind of a progression of a relationship. You want somebody comfortable that you could, like you said, you want to be comfortable with the lawyer because ultimately you're saying, this is my major problem. I need help with it. And I want to trust you because I don't know what I'm doing. And I want to be able to give you this so I don't have to worry about it. Especially in small business, you don't want to do both. You don't want to do my job and your job and pay me to do it.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to shift it to the lawyer, trust that they got it and can handle it.
Yeah.
And then you take your mind off on it, focus on what you want. And so in the development of that relationship, some things have to be communicated, through talking. Some things have to be documented in a letter or a filing. And so with my associates and people that I teach, I say it's kind of like a relationship with your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or a husband. If you only text them all the time, or if you only emailed them, that's the worst. A lot of young people just want to say email and then I don't have to worry about it. Well, if you only emailed your spouse, your client relationships are going to be terrible because there's going to be no connection. And if you only text them, text is the same thing. It's a little better, but there's no relationship. And so I really push people to either call. You need to call and talk to them, or have them in and talk to them face to face. It builds a totally different relationship. So
the first time I reached out to you, I was like, I just want to come in and meet you. Like I
took the same approach.
Because I know. Well, I realized that I was like, well, just going with some random person, just off a recommendation, it doesn't work out. I need to make sure that whoever I'm working with actually cares about me and my situation too. I want to make sure that whoever I'm going to court with is on my side, not just doing it just to do it and get it out of the way. And so, there's the miscommunication over a text or an email, because I don't know. Yeah, there's something there that you can't understand someone's tone, or maybe I don't know. It's just different. I mean, how many times has a text message got just misread or misinterpreted? And someone's like, I didn't mean it that way at all. But over a text, it might seem a totally different way than what it really is. So to me, I totally understand that. But there's also people that, like when I was in a body shop, they want stuff for free all the time.
Right.
So they're just coming out and they're like, hey, I got this problem in my headlight. Can you fix it? It's hazy. Can you fix it real quick? Or I got this one, and they think it's a little problem. They think you just sit around, do nothing, and since you know how to do it, you just bring it out, and they just want it for free.
Right.
I could see, because a lot of your stuff is knowledge-based information, so they're coming to you for this knowledge, but they want it for free. And so they want to be able to text you, and you just solve their issue over the text message, and then they get all this stuff for free.
That's pretty much my life in a nutshell. We went to, we got invited to like a murder mystery date thing Amber and I did, and we went and you play a role, and I got assigned the role of an attorney. So I'm like, oh yeah, this will be easy, And so we get there, and then
was that set up?
Yeah.
Was.
Oh, you mean that they picked me for what I was.
Like they were like, well, he's an attorney, so we're gonna film the attorney.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's easy. I don't have to. I don't have to practice too much. And then you kind of have a script of what you're gonna talk to the other people about and stuff. Well, everybody's script was supposed to come and ask me for like free legal advice as part of their issue or their problem, and you go through and everybody kind of tries to solve the mystery. But I told the host, I was like, this feels like my regular job. Like every day, everybody's coming like, hey, I got a hypothetical for you, or what about this? And that's kind of, so as I've grown as an attorney, when you're when you first start out, it's a hard balance because if you give legal advice, even, just a quick one, whether it be text or in a meeting, and you give the wrong thing, and then they go and they rely on it and have some kind of catastrophic problem, then it's on you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times if people are texting you or talking in 5 minutes with you, you're not getting the full picture. I mean, almost always.
Yes.
And so if I then gave some big legal advice and they did it and it caused some catastrophic problem to the, personally or their business, that not only is that bad for me, but it's just bad for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's kind of as you are a lawyer longer, you can kind of figure out, okay, I can kind of guide people here without leading them astray. And I've grown to where I can give a little more free.
Yeah, how much time is too much time you
guidance,
give to someone?
Yeah.
Do you try not to give out a personal number for cases like that? I've definitely realized that, and I never expect nothing for free. I never even want nothing for free. I'd much rather, if I call someone and they have to put in any time, I'm like, just bill me for it. Even if somebody writes me an estimate on a roof, I have to get a roof replaced here soon on a duplex I have, and I want to pay them for the estimate, and they want to give it to me for free, and I can't always use their estimate. And I'm like, hey, let me pay you for this estimate for your time, even if it's $25 or $50. Let me pay you for this time because I didn't expect you to give it to me for free, and that's same way with you. I'm just like, I'd much rather I'm okay with getting billed for any little thing.
Well, and you make the good client, not only because you're paying, but for everybody. I mean, because you understand everybody's trying to make money. That's the whole point of what, if we didn't get paid, nobody would work. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have the people that complain and gripe and want everything for free. And then you have the people like, just take care of this for me and we'll work it out. And that makes it a lot easier. Time, though, is kind of a balance too, because so when I do an initial consult, even like when you first came in, I found that you almost have to spend an hour with people at a minimum. Some of our newer attorneys, I even have to train them how to meet with people. We'll try to get in and out 20, 30 minutes, but they don't have a connection with the person. And then their sign-up rate either goes down or the people get dissatisfied quicker. And so I almost always spend almost an hour with people you got to hear them out completely and they get
their story too.
Hear their story.
Because I think when I came out, I think we talked for damn near 2 hours.
Yeah, probably.
It was somewhere between that time, but it was huge for me too because I felt like I got to know you as well. You came on with, whenever I came to meet you, you kind of had some questions. You're like, okay, what's your goals and what are you doing and what's your plan for the future? And I like that a lot because I do have goals. And I was like, I really need someone that can work through all this stuff with me. I need someone that I don't always need an attorney, but when I do, I want to know that I can reach out and they know my name. They know who I am, and it's not just like, who are you again?
Right.
That's something that those consultations are really big for.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really cool because I've got invested, even you watching your podcast and your other business, ventures and in the gym and all that. Because I know you, I'm, tuned into a lot of that. I personally get invested too in you, which is cool. Mm-hmm. And in a small town, it's hard because everybody has, I'm from Steelville, but I've lived in Owensville now, 15 years. Mm-hmm. And so everybody has my cell phone anyway. Mm-hmm. And so it's a hard balance because you have somebody that regularly texts you. Now they want you to be their lawyer, and you don't really want them to text you legal questions. But I've really found people are pretty okay with it. Like I'll say, hey, you can call me on my cell phone. Obviously you have it if it's an emergency or if you have a problem. But if you funnel it through my office, it's a lot easier. And I usually use my kids as the point. Like if I'm with my kids and I'm doing a bunch of stuff or I'm coaching and then you text me and I glance at it and it's a legal question, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to think about this or I'm going to have to write it back. And then I forget, then you really feel upset. So if you go through my office, we have a whole system. The secretary sends me an email, and I can keep track of it. And people are receptive to that.
Yeah,
so.
It works out great. It really does. And I've even kind of when I'm calling in, often. I kind of even get to know the receptionist, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know. It's to me, it's actually easier just to tell them, and I kind of just break it down for them, and then they kind of already know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was kicking someone out of a rental property, the lady that I called into a couple of times, she remembered who I was, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I can put that in the notes or put that wherever, and I'll let Adam know, and then we'll get back." And it's actually a lot of people just are uncomfortable with calling.
Yeah.
I think like
Right.
they don't want to call. They think it's easier to text, but it just things go a lot smoother and faster if you can just call in or go in person and do it.
Yeah, and satisfaction goes down. Literally, because we've, I mean, that's the progression. Everybody wants to text, not talk. And we've tried, my brother and I are the partners in the firm, and we've tried to, pushing our business in that way. Can we text some? But we see client satisfaction going down. Even if we're more available by text, even if we text them back immediately every day, client satisfaction still goes down because you don't have that connection with people. And so you kind of gotta encourage people to talk to each other.
Do you guys still have that texting thing, or you guys don't have that anymore?
It's kind of client by client, or we'll text people back or email them. But
I feel like on anything big, anyway, it's just too much.
exactly.
It's just way too much. Now you said your brother.
Mm-hmm.
Is attorney a thing of family for you guys? Is that right? Is it
No.
running the family?
No, my dad worked in Chrysler in St. Louis, building cars on the assembly line, and my mom was a teacher in Cuba, and they just had a lot of successful kids. My oldest sister is a doctor, and then my brother and I are lawyers, and then my youngest sister works for the state, pretty high up in some counseling section, and so
Wow.
yeah.
You guys definitely chose some of the hardest paths to go down, I feel like.
Yeah.
How long is it school for a lawyer?
3 years. You go to undergraduate, which is 4 years, and then you do 3 years of law school.
So 7 years total, though.
7 years total. Yeah.
That's a long time to be in school.
Yeah.
How do
I was
you-
watching all my friends, that were getting jobs and getting new vehicles and, having money.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just still in school. I was like, oh, maybe I made the wrong choice.
What kept you going?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I can do a lot. I can do just about anything. But I think I was missing the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to college, it was pretty easy for me. And so I felt like I needed more school, or I don't know. I didn't really even know what I wanted to do then. I got a history degree, and I was like, well,
Like you were going to be a teacher?
well, I didn't even know.
Okay.
That was an option.
Sure.
So I kind of was like, okay, I got a history degree. What are my options?
Yeah.
So I said I could be a professor or a teacher, and then I kind of had interest in being like a vet, but that biology was really hard for me.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, how am I gonna figure out what my next steps are? As all these, as you do when you're young.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, well, I like to wear a suit every day, and I like to work with people, and I want to go to more school. And so I kind of
Now, is it your older brother or younger brother?
Older.
It's your older brother.
Mm-hmm.
So was that an influence too?
He, yeah, probably, yeah. We had a pretty good relationship as I got older, and I knew that if we ended up working together, it would be a good.
But it wasn't a plan. You guys didn't.
Right.
You guys didn't say, "Hey, we should go to school, both become lawyers, we'll start our own firm."
No.
It wasn't like that at all.
No, but that's kind of a funny story. So I'll give you a little backstory, and then I'll tell you the funny part of it.
Okay.
So he is 5 years older than me, and then he went to law school, and then him and one of his college buddies started the firm. And the college buddy, Aaron Martin, became a judge now, and so he left a little while later. So they started the firm before me. After I got out of law school, I kind of tried to start my own firm for a little while, and then they offered me a job to hire me, and then I came on at that point. But we never planned to be lawyers. Our parents never talked about that or anything. But then looking back, when we were kids, we didn't know this, but we were coming through some pictures and stuff and some albums, and we would have these trials as kids where, like my sister had some kind of these stuffed animals. I think they're Alf. So you remember the show Alf, or is that too old for you?
I think that's too old for me.
Okay.
Hey, would you pull that up and see if is it a cartoon or something?
No, it was like this weird alien guy.
Alf?
Alf. So
Not like
all the older people will know for sure. Anybody my age or older will know of Alf. But anyway, so we had these Alf. It's just like a stuffed animal.
Sure.
And he would always be, apparently, so we were kids like 10, 11, 12, 13. And we would put him on trial for murder or whatever, one of the other ones. And then one side would be, apparently, we had like a mock court. And we just thought we were playing.
Oh,
but,
I've definitely seen Alf before.
yeah. And
I've never watched it before, but I definitely seen the character before.
Yeah, that's kind of the cartoon, but there was an actual show of people where he was in a costume or whatever.
Hey, can you go back and then just go to images?
Yeah, it'll be under the images.
Yeah. That's it.
There it is, in the middle. You can kind of see. Yeah, right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I do remember this thing before. I never watched it, but okay. Yeah. Is that 80s?
Yeah, probably.
Well, that says TV series 1987.
Yeah, I was born in '83, so I might have been getting reruns, but yeah. So anyway, we put Alf on trial, and we did this as a kid, and I would act the whole thing out, call witnesses. So apparently, we were being lawyers even as
Sure.
kids. It just
Yeah, it was a little natural. For
yeah,
you.
apparently.
It's funny you say that because I was the same way, but with business.
Okay.
Like I would like just start little stores.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had started like a little store at my house, and I mean I'm young, like elementary school, but yeah, I remember like setting up a little store and trying to sell stuff, and yeah, it was kind of, you don't realize it when you're young. You think you're just playing, and then maybe it's just actually something you actually have an interest in. That kind of leads to something farther in your life.
Right.
So when you got out of school, you just joined them. You've been with your brother since you got out of school.
Got out of school, and I joined them probably about maybe about a year getting out of school. I'd started a firm for a little guy for a little while with the guy that I went to law school with for about a year in St. Louis. But I had Gavin, my oldest at that time, and starting a new business is hard to make money. Sure. And so when they offered me a job, I jumped on it.
Mm-hmm. So you had a kid when you were in school?
In law school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
And so
how were you making money when you were in school?
I wasn't.
Okay.
So some people work in law school, but between a kid and just school was hard for me. I did some little part-time jobs and stuff, but for the most part, I wasn't making much money, living off loans, basically. Mm-hmm. Law school is different. So law school is, I don't know, have you ever heard kind of the stories about law school? I'll give you a little. It's interesting. Okay. So law school is all competitive. And so you're competing with everybody in your class. So there may be 200 other people in your class. And the grades are on a curve. And so like they had, out of a class of like 200, the teachers or professors were required to give 5 Fs, 20 Ds, 150 Cs. My math's going to be wrong, but
yeah, there was
20
a
Bs
number of,
and then 5 As. Yeah, They were required, and it basically was a curve where the majority of people were getting Cs, and then you had to get Fs and As. So people were going to flunk the class.
Why is that, though?
For competitive.
Oh, to make it competitive.
Yeah, to make it competitive. So when you're in there, then it's each semester there's only one grade, and that's a test at the end of the semester covering everything. And it's an essay test.
Oh, okay.
So they give you like a hypothetical question, and you have 3 hours to write the answer, and you're competing against everybody else in your class.
And that's per semester?
Per semester. But you had like 5 classes, so it'd be like 5 of those.
That's still crazy.
Yeah. And so during the semester, when you're studying and everything, and you're like, oh, it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to go home, and you look around, and everybody's
else
still there. You're like,
Yeah.
So I would, they would give you'd probably have to read 200 or 300 pages a day. And then
of law?
Yeah. And so I would go, my schedule, because I had a kid, I would go to the library at like 7, the law school library. I would study. I probably had a class during like 9, 10, and 2 o'clock. So I would study from 7 in the morning till the first class, study between all the classes, and then I'd stay and study till about 9 at night, and then come home.
Oh my gosh.
It was terrible.
That's 15-hour days, 12, 13, 14-hour days.
Yeah. And then usually Saturdays. Usually studied Saturdays too. And then what makes it harder is So you'll be in a class, and they sit you in a seating chart, and then they have your names. And there's a little bit of flexibility how professors did it, but they would say, okay, Mr. Grayson, please stand up. And you'd stand up at the beginning of class. And then they would grill you. They didn't lecture. They basically taught by asking questions. And so they would grill you for the entire hour. Some teachers would just do you. So they would grill you and ask you questions over the reading for an entire hour. And like the questions would guide you towards teaching the class. So the class was learning through listening to the question and answer. And if you didn't read, they'd kick you out of class. And so
they were strict.
Yeah.
It was, if you're not here
Right.
to become a lawyer and you're not taking it serious, you're out.
Well, like your first year, you'd get there, they'd say, okay, Mr. Smith, stand up. Mr. Smith, stand up. And they'd be like, okay, and they'd ask him a question. You could tell he didn't read. And they'd be like, oh, you didn't read? And he'd be like, no. And they'd be like, who here wants to let Mr. Smith stay here and slow everybody down? And since he's not reading like everybody else, raise your hand if you want Mr. Smith to stay here and hurt the class. Or should he leave? Of course, nobody's going to raise their hand.
Yeah.
And so they would kind of shame you out to leave.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
That is brutal. I guess people probably picked up on it pretty quick.
Yeah, so you would read. And if you didn't, you'd just sit there in sheer panic. Please don't call me. Please don't call me.
Or I would just feel like, I would just act like I was sick or something.
Right.
If I forgot to read it, I would probably just try to skip that class.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that's probably better than getting called on, getting shamed, and getting kicked out of class.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, so it kind of, and then they rank you. So as you get your grades, they rank you, and then like big firms, the question is where are you ranked in your class is always the main question, and so they can judge, how competitive you are, how smart you are, how studious you are based on your rank.
Now is the rank? How's the rank system work? Is it based per grade? Per semester, like per grade, per class,
Continuing through the whole year, or through your whole law school.
Yep.
Yep.
And that they just make you rank out of that. Mm-hmm. Dude, that is very tough.
It's intense.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew it was like that. So where
so when I was done with law school, I was like, I'm done.
Yes. Was it that big a deal because for you, for the ranking system, was it that big a deal because you went in for working for yourself, basically?
No, the ranking didn't matter too much for me because it kind of depends on where you want to work. If you want to work in some of the mega firms, ranking was super important there. But I knew that I wanted to do trial work. I knew I wanted to work in a small firm because I wanted to work closer with people. And a lot of those mega firms, you may not get to go to a courtroom for 10 years because you just kind of got to work your way up. I knew I wanted to be in a small firm so I could get in courtroom really fast.
And when you say
work closer with people,
when you say mega firm, is that like a federal?
No,
that works with federal cases.
No, everybody can work on any of that stuff. When I am saying mega firm, it's more like there may be a firm in St. Louis or Kansas City or nationally that maybe has 200, 300 attorneys in it, something like that.
Oh, so what are they doing for 10 years that takes them so long to work up the ladder?
They just have grunt work that they do for the people below them. They just kind of.
So you are an attorney, but you're
paper pushing or doing the basic stuff, and
that's tough.
They just have so many cases that they're just paper pushing.
But are they just that big of a firm that people really want on that bad? What would be the benefit of that?
They pay a lot more.
Even as a lower down, you're still getting paid well.
Yeah, but they work you. Usually there's expectations of like working like 80 hours a week or 90 hours a week, but they pay a lot. Yeah. And if you stick it out for 30 years, you might get a really good retirement and stuff like that. But it's pretty brutal too. So.
It sounds brutal. It sounds like a very harsh life.
So I was like, I don't want that. I know I want to work in a small firm. I want to work with people. I want to go straight in, try cases.
Yeah.
And so.
Is there, how do you prepare? Well, I guess the whole time you're in school, you're also doing trials of some kind.
Not really.
How do you get prepped for that?
Yeah.
Because that's a whole experience on its own, too.
That's a good question. So in law school, they basically just teach you kind of the basics of the law and kind of the understanding, and they teach you how to think. But I only had one class that was closely related to like trial work, maybe two. And so they don't teach you that, because the majority of lawyers are not trial lawyers. Most of them either do contract work or work in house for a business, or they just there's just a lot of areas of law where we're not doing trial work.
What's contract work?
And so contract work could be leases, or you could review stuff for banks, where you have contracts for banks, or maybe you write it or tweak it. Real estate contracts.
Oh, that sounds like the worst one.
Yeah. All of those are terrible.
Writing contracts all the time?
Right.
That would be so boring.
Yeah, it would.
It'd be because they're probably rarely ever going to court.
Lower stress, though.
Is it?
Yeah, because you don't have the pressures. Trials are very stressful.
Now, the ones that are making the contracts, are they also going to court for the contracts they wrote? Or are they pushing it over to someone like you who would then go to court to handle it?
Yeah,
Trials.
so it kind of depends. Some firms do, or some firms will push it to a trial team. But we do a lot of trial work and harder litigation trial over. Because we do trial work, we do litigation over contracts, over injuries. We kind of do everything. And so a lot of times when those cases are headed towards a trial, they do send them to a firm like us to handle them.
Oh, okay. So then even if they wrote it, they would transfer the whole thing over to you guys.
A lot of times, yeah.
So you guys are kind of just like partners, I guess. Like not so much partners, like legally partners, but you guys they have people that they trust too. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, sometimes
lawyers.
Yeah. Sometimes you will work jointly on it with the other firm, or sometimes they're just like, we don't do trial work. Will you? We trust you guys. We know you guys. Will you take this case for us? And then they tell their client, hey, these guys will take care of you. And then we kind of just take it over. So
sure. And I guess that makes sense, because going back to, how do you get the whole going to trial is a whole animal on its own, I'm sure. How do you, we never really got to explain how you got used to it. What is it that?
All on the job training.
Just showing up.
Pretty much.
And figuring it out.
So when I came in, my brother had already been practicing 5 years, so he had some decent experience to help teach me. But we were still small. I mean, I had a lot of, because we were still a very small business, still growing, because a law firm is kind of a mini business. You're practicing law, but you're also you have all the same struggles as any small business, whether it be, money or bills or time, you still have the same
still at the
struggles.
market.
You still have to market.
Advertise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, you're still doing your job. And so we were still a small firm, and we were still, fighting to get new clients and get our name out there and advertising and all the small business struggles. And so at the same time, my brother would be like, here's a case, go figure it out. And so I would have to research it. And then we always joked that, the biggest struggle is just showing up. So you just got to show up. You got to find the courtroom, and you got to go in there. And, once you do it once, it gets easier. But
yeah. So a lot of these cases that are coming to you, it's you got to reach out to the client, talk with them, figure the case out. And then, I see what you're saying, because you're going to courtrooms all over the place.
Yeah.
You think you've been to just about all of them that you'll ever be to now?
I don't know.
You've been in all the courtrooms?
A lot of my stuff has changed from when I first started. When I first started, I did a lot of family law, which I did not like. Child custody stuff, divorce stuff, just because there's so much of it. And it was easier to get for a small firm. Now I do more medical stuff. I represent the Missouri Medical Board, the Missouri Nursing Board, and the Dental Board. I've got some really good clients. And so I do more complex case involving doctors and nurses and stuff. And so because I get new clients, I might always get pushed to new courtrooms in different places I haven't ever been. We've probably, at one point, we were making a map of all the counties we had been in. We had been in probably about half or 3/4 of the courtrooms around Missouri.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Because people come to you from all over.
Exactly.
All over the place.
Yeah.
And depending on, whenever I came to you to write a contract, the nice thing was that we set it up to where when someone was signing the contract with me, we pulled to your court.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're a little more comfortable in it. It was closer for you. But yeah, depending on if it's the other way around, someone's getting sued and you're representing that person that's getting sued, you could get pulled wherever.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of the perks of, like, even in your example, there are a lot of small business owners. You kind of naturally, a small business owner has a get up and go. Like, I can do this. I can do it myself, because you have to. That's the only way you're going to get going. And so it's very common for us to see small business owners not want to spend money on attorneys because they think they can either do it themselves or they don't want to spend the money. And so there's always a kind of a transition where they eventually, you were probably on the edge of learning it like quicker, like, hey, I'm going to rely on other people, so this is easier on me. But other people push that too far, and then something happens, and because they did it themselves, it ends up costing them more later. Because as you grow, naturally, you eventually have to have accountants, attorneys, as you grow bigger. And so, like, for your example, if somebody was doing it on their own and they didn't choose the particular court or do something that an attorney could have advised them on, now they may have to hire an attorney they're not comfortable with in a different county, or they may have to pay their attorney a lot more to drive farther. And so a lot of times, just simply having an attorney do that at the beginning saves a lot of money in the long run.
Pays to be prepared, for sure.
Exactly.
And I can thank books and podcasts and a little bit of experience for it, because I'm so driven on just wanting to get to my next goal, and I have a pretty big goal, and I'm trying to I want to get to a corporation, because that's, I started learning that already. I've been in a small business now for 2 years where I'm running it day in and day out, and I realized that in small businesses, there's nothing wrong with owning a small business, but the funds are low, and
the struggle's real.
The struggle is real whenever you're doing it, and it's tough, because I don't want to, as a business owner, I just don't want to have to, like, it's not all about the money. It's about the freedom to be able to pay an attorney and not have to worry about, how's this going to affect my business and my personal life? Because in a small business, the funds just don't come in enough to be able to pay for the things that need to be paid to run a business properly. And so I love my small business now, but I want to get to the level where I'm at a big business. That way I can pay, like, even marketing for me is marketing and advertising and having the right people on my team, because my level of marketing can only go so far. And it's okay, because I own a small town gym and it's not that big a deal. My advertising doesn't have to be to this professional level.
Although you have some nice billboards.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You actually do have some. You have the billboards and the signs in town, and so I do see your stuff everywhere. I'm like, oh, Ryan, there's Ryan again.
I am so...
You do a good job with that.
I love it, though.
Yeah.
To me, that is fun. I love I had dreamed of renting a billboard. That was part of it was a little dream, but it was like something I was like, oh, how cool it would be to have my business on a billboard. And I remember whenever I first got the billboard, and I just put my thing up, and I'm like, man, that's so cool. And then at that day, I loved the idea of billboards. And I told myself, I want to try to own billboards one day. And I had just told the gentleman that I rent the billboards from, I said, hey, if you ever want to sell these, I'd be interested in buying them. And then it wasn't 6 months later, I bought the billboards from him.
Nice.
And it's part of the fun of the adventure. And and that's also why I want to own a big business too, so I can do more things like that. I enjoy being able to see how many people I can reach and advertise to. And I like the analytics. I like watching analytics and see, like, I can try this, and people see my business more. And like that, to me, that's the fun part. It's the challenge of what can we do to advertise and market to be able to grow this business even more. And in a small business, it doesn't matter how much you advertise or what you do, it peaks.
Right.
At some point.
You have the drive and the desire and the good ideas, but the hard part is with a small business, it's all sweat equity. Like, you have to, because you don't have the buffer or the breathing room on money to be like, I've got this idea, we need to invest a little bit of money. The money's just not there as a small business. And so you have to do everything yourself, the sweat equity, but then that's a drain on your time. It's a huge hurdle to get over. Once your business breaks that, gets over that hill, and then money starts coming in, then you can start investing in ideas and investing in other people to help grow those ideas.
Yeah, I want some people in too, because yeah, it is hard to do things on your own, like where you're solely relying on yourself. I even remember whenever you guys wrote me the contract. I'm pretty sure, I think it was the contract for the gym. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. It was one of them, but I remember you worked with your brother. Or I assume it was your brother. What's your brother's name?
Matt is my brother.
Matt?
I think another guy helped me on that one.
Was there a Josh?
No. I think Kyle.
Kyle, that's it.
Yeah.
But I like when you guys called me and you're like, hey, I got Kyle and what'd you say your brother's name was?
Matt.
Matt. I got Kyle and Matt here and we're working on this and we got some ideas. And I love that because that's what I want. I want to be able to have teams that I get to work with that I don't want to have to be the guy that comes up with the idea all the time. It's because I don't want I know my ideas always aren't the best. And I like criticism. And I like having that person that challenges my mind and comes up with new ideas. And I want people that can help me.
That's kind of how we run our business. I'm going to give you another 80s. It might be 90s. The show House. Have you seen that?
House?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's about a doctor.
Oh, yeah. I've never watched it,
Okay.
but I do know it. That's an 80s show?
That's probably 90s, maybe
Okay.
2000s. I don't know.
We
It's fairly older, too. So it's based on this idea. This doctor's kind of crazy, but he's really super smart. Everybody comes to him, but he has a team with him. And so the patient will have some really weird condition, but then it's a team approach. There's like 5 of them. They'll all sit around and they'll bounce the ideas off of each other because you're getting 5 different perspectives, and they'll brainstorm. And he's kind of like, oh, that's a dumb idea because he's kind of assertive. But then that dialogue and that bouncing the ideas off each other ultimately gets them to places where other doctors couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
And so we kind of run our business very similar. We have
2004 to 2012.
see, that's not that bad.
No, I remember.
That's in your age range.
Yeah, it definitely is. I remember like seeing it on TV, but I just never did get into it.
Yeah. So our offices kind of run similar. Although we have a lead attorney on the cases, I pretty much know most of the cases in our office because we meet and we will talk about them. And instead of, one of my selling pitches when we were smaller is I would say, look, instead of getting one attorney, you're getting 4 attorneys because we all analyze it, bounce these ideas off each other, take different perspectives. And so we can come up with the best options for you because you got 4 minds on it instead of 1.
So you guys have all 4 of you guys on every case?
Usually there's an elite attorney, but I don't know that I would say on every case. It's more like we have enough meetings and discussions, and we take enough breaks where we're standing around drinking coffee, and we say, here's the case I have, here's the issues. And then I'm like, well, this is what I would do in that. And somebody else is like, well, did you think about this? And then somebody else will say something.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. It's
really,
not so much a focused meeting where we're talking the case, but yeah, you just got like-minded people around you where you can just, if there is a hurdle that if you come to, you can be like, hey, I kind of got this going on.
Exactly.
And they're like, okay, well, yeah, because that is huge.
Yeah.
And anything you do to have someone like that. I even remember that when I was working on cars. I mean, it's the same, but it's also very different. But yeah, I just get so like in my zone and I forget about something else, and someone else could walk over and be like, well, how about try this?
Right.
And then you try it and it works out great.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And it is. That's why it's so important to do that.
It's kind of hard. You have to have, as you're developing your business, I feel like you have to have people that are similar to you, have the kind of can match your energy, but you have to be open enough to accept their ideas because, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I got this, and I'm so trapped in, but I have a perspective because I've, grew up a certain way and lived a certain way, and somebody else, although, they may be similar to me, can certainly have different perspective that brings ideas to the table that I never think of. And a lot of times they're way better. So developing that where you can have people around you that can match your energy and have kind of a similar goal to you is great. But also a struggle to get to that point.
Yeah. It's nice that you were able to go in with your brother too, because there's that instant connection there to be able to help. Now, has that caused any problems?
That's a good question. So generally, no. When my brother and I were younger, so he's 5 years older than me, I didn't like him. He would sit on me and change the shows. I wanted to
Sure.
watch Alf. I don't know, but
Sure.
wanted to watch a TV show, and he would sit
He
on
was
top.
Big Brother.
He was Big Brother. He would sit on top of me, take the remote, and laugh while he watched whatever show he wanted. But then, as we kind of were in college and coming out, we connected more. And generally, I would say no. I mean, I don't like have problems with him more than we have discussions. We have things we disagree on, just like I would with anybody. But there is kind of a safety net there of like, okay, he does half the money stuff, I do half. I don't have to like worry about.
Oh,
I feel like I could trust him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's a huge.
Yeah, because so he handles the financial side of
He
stuff.
does.
a
He
lot.
does. He does half of it, and I do half of it. But I don't
okay.
feel like I have to set up safeguards or check. And same with cases or any business decision. We're pretty on the same page. And if you go into business with somebody you don't trust very well, or it's uneasy, it's just.
And you guys probably have a very similar process to the way you guys do things.
I think so. Yeah.
Because you guys come from torn from the same thread,
Right.
right? Or the same cloth.
Yeah.
So I feel like at least you guys correlate there.
We're in the same ballparks.
Or maybe even easier just to tell them to F off if you need to.
Right. Yeah,
You
we've
know?
had plenty of meetings where we just walk away. I'm like, I'm walking away, or
Yeah.
he walks away.
Because there's, I mean, I guess if you spend enough time with someone, you get to be to that point where you can do that anyway. But yeah, I mean, them your whole life. It's easier to butt heads with them and then just come back the next day.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you're still family.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people have a hard time starting up, because we help people start up businesses too and do all their initial stuff. And people are like, I'm thinking about going into business with this person, but I don't, you can tell there's a trust issue there, or it's a little gray. I'll say, look, do you really want to start a business with this person? And they're like, well, we can lock it all in by the contracts. I'm like, yeah, but then you're just going to fight still, and then you're going to be litigating over these contracts or these documents, and you really got to be comfortable with the person, because they're only as good as you two can get along.
Yeah. Do you think partnerships or what would if someone came to you and they just they're like, what do you think? Should I get a partner or should I do it alone? What would you recommend to them? Do it alone?
No, not necessarily. Partnerships are fine as long as you trust the person. I mean, as long as you have a good relationship with the person and can trust them. You don't take loans from people, and you don't go into business with people that you can't trust. Mm-hmm. Even if you think you could back it up by contracts, I mean, it's not worth it. It's not worth the litigation. It's not worth the fight if you don't already trust those people. So I think that's the kind of do you have a good relationship with this person, and can you trust them before you go into business with them? Because, in a small business, there's so much grind, so many small decisions, so much. And if you then got to fight with your partner too, that's terrible.
Small business, I'm like, when someone tells me they're going to a small business partner with someone else, I don't know. It scares me every time.
Right.
Because I know what it's like, the struggle in a small business. In a big business, I could see it. Maybe you got to, there's a lot to handle and manage and just deal with. But in a small business, it's like, there's some stuff you should probably do alone, because there's going to be a lot of executive decisions you're going to have to make based on money, and just figure out morally, I got to do this. And I might if you really want to make a small business work, a lot of times you got to work for free. Mm-hmm. And if the one person's not willing to work for free, like you are, it might cause some problems. And that's where my thing is, because I feel like a lot of people that go into business for themselves definitely are control. They want the control of the business. And so then now you got two people, and one person has this idea and the other person has this idea, and they might not go perfectly together, and now their gears are grinding, and that's where problems come in. I've done a few things with some other people. They worked out just fine, but I could even I could just know myself that I'm like, I can't do this forever.
Right.
When I went into it, I knew I was working with somebody else, and it was just like flipping a house. And so it's just, you go in with an open mind, knowing that you can't make all the decisions. And I don't even like the idea of being the control freak kind of person. Like I know that's a very small business mindset to have. And I know that like in a business, you gotta let some people have their ideas, let some people, like some people work better whenever they think they come up with the idea and it works out. And, you got to give some freedom out there. But I'm the kind of guy that, there's times where I might want to work really long hours. I might take a chance on something that might not be the best idea, or maybe just like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like I'll do some things that are just untraditional, but I think it's what needs to be done to make something happen. And I'm willing to do it for free. And I try every time I do something like that. I'm like, okay, make sure if I'm doing it, like if I'm working, I don't want to work for free ever. That's my whole thing is I'm trying to find ways that I'm making sure I get paid for everything. But that's also why I try to make sure whenever I'm asking someone for any type, I don't ask for favors. I make sure whenever I ask for something, I'm paying someone for their time because I want to make sure I'm getting paid for my time too and just keep it fair all across the board. But the whole partnership thing, I think it's tough. Very, very tough. And I've seen a lot of people it just doesn't work out.
Yeah. I think you're, for a partnership idea, you're kind of tapping into three things you have to have a similar work ethic, because if one person is like, oh, I want to take it easy, and the other person is like, I'm going to bust this until we get it done. You have to, and then a control issue of what roles is everybody going to play? Because if one, if you can't agree to the roles, maybe one person needs to go out and do one job and the other person needs to go the other. If you can't agree to that, you're going to have control fights. Mm-hmm. And the third is money. When you first start out, a lot of times, like you said, everybody wants to make money, but there are times when you have to make decisions to do stuff where you're not going to make money in a small business. And so, like when we first started out, there was three of us, my brother, Matt, Aaron, and I, and we started out with basically, we all had similar work ethics. We all grew up on farms. We're like, we'll just, work hard, get it done, whatever. We were all probably similar mindset on the money issue. There are times when we may have to work for free. We don't want to do that, but let's just get the job done and do a good job. And then we kind of separated it to where everybody had their own roles, and you don't really, try to control the other people. But we set it up where it was all three of us equal three ways, profits, losses, everything. And, a lot of people can get really nitpicky in partnerships about, I did this many hours, so I should get paid this much. We're just like, and part of that came from trust because we're all similar. If you were with somebody, if I would have looked over and one guy was never coming into work and I was working 50, 60 hours a week, I would have been really frustrated. And so it's hard to find those similar people, I think.
How do you choose who gets what case? Or because you guys say you're splitting it three ways evenly, right? So how does if one person, how do you choose the cases? How do you guys divide the cases up? Because I could just imagine one person, if they were an advantage taker, they would be looking for all the good cases, and then all the bad ones that are going to take forever. They'd be like, I don't want to deal with those, and they push them off. How do you get around that?
Yep.
Is it just like this case comes in, you get this one. Next case comes in, you get this one. Is it something similar to that?
We've tried all of those. We've tried everything.
Okay.
So partly that's what gets us back to the relationship issue is, even when we bring on a new attorney, they don't, a lot of times they don't come in with any cases depending on their background. And so you want to start building them cases, but we figured out that passing cases on to somebody else is hard. So like if you and I came in, we had a 2-hour meeting, we connected, you're like, hey, I want to work with you. And then you never hear from me again and you only hear from somebody else. It lowers satisfaction a lot of times.
Yeah.
Or sometimes can ruin it because they're like, I don't really like the other attorney. Yeah. And so it's really hard to pass completely to another person. Usually if you sign them up, you either have to stay with them or you have to be the main contact person. And they know, like you say, hey, we're crunched on time. You really want this done. I'm going to have Kyle or, one of these other attorneys work on this. I'll review it. And then you kind of work as a middleman. But So a lot of times is just a slow buildup of you've got to have them sign up their own clients and build it up. And there are plenty of times if we have just a ton of people or a ton of things to do or we're on short deadlines where we just have to communicate to the client and say, look, this is a short deadline. We got to bring other people in on this. But that's not a lasting it hurts the relationships, I feel like.
Sure.
And so it kind of brings one of the things that we've learned, because now we have 5 attorneys and we have 6 staff now. And we're still growing, still looking for people. Hard to hire people right now, but
Sure. When you say you're looking for staff, you're looking for someone like a receptionist.
yeah. Most of our receptionists they're probably closer to paralegals. They don't have the training, but it's more on the job training. But pretty much all of our staff writes for us and does helps do work on the files. They don't just answer phones.
They have interest in it.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's exactly the direction I was going of picking people because everybody has different abilities we've learned. I've hired and worked with enough people and enough staff that I've learned some people are good at some stuff, other people are better at other stuff. And if you tried to hey, I know you're good at, A, but I want you to do B, it never works.
Mm-hmm.
They do, even if you try to train them, even if you try to motivate them, even if you try to pay them more, they just cannot do B.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people that are really good at B, and you try to push them to do whatever this A thing is, they can't do it. And so we really try to plug people in to their strengths. And so sometimes when now we've grown enough that we're like particular cases coming in, we're like, this is in this person's wheelhouse. Let's let them meet with this person.
Gotcha.
If they don't already know them. And so that we kind of try to funnel people towards their strengths now. I've learned, one of my best strengths are I have really good connections with people, and I have I'm able to sign up a lot of people. I have a high sign up rate. People feel comfortable with me. They'll come in. I'm good at signing up new clients.
What would that be considered?
There are other attorneys that cannot.
Is it a communication thing?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just know that I have a better ability, and that's one of my strengths.
I would say charisma.
Well, I don't know. Thank you, but
I think you're one of those guys. No matter when I see you, it's always a pleasant experience.
oh, thank you.
I remember you brought your car to the body shop when I was working at a body shop, and it's the first time I met you. Very, very pleasant experience. The time of the body shop, I've ran into you randomly at Walmart before and restaurants before, and it's always a friendly smile and a welcoming greeting of some kind. And that's kind of, that's probably a big,
Probably
a big roll into it. Whenever you can have that kind of charisma and that kind of, at least for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a welcoming feeling for me.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Thank you. And so that's one of my strengths, but I may not be as good at something else. And we have other attorneys that don't seem to be able to sign up anybody, but they have other strengths. So we don't focus on them. We don't say, go out and sign up people, because we've learned that doesn't work. They just can't. So we funnel the strengths to what they can do.
Sure. I think I was just more focused. In my mind, I hyper-focused on the jealousy that people get. But in your line of work, people, by the time they become an attorney, they've probably developed a totally different mindset than some of the people that I'm thinking of that I would go into business with, or the first-time business owner that they're just looking to partner up because, one, they're just looking to make some money, and two, they're partnering up with someone else because they think it's going to be, or it's half the money that they got to put down, half the work they got to do, and it's more of a greed entryway versus by the time they come on to work for you guys, it's a totally different mindset going into it.
Probably a lot of people want to start small businesses like you and think they can make quick cash. Like, oh, I can just start this up and I'll make a lot of, and there are a few, but most of them don't work that way.
No.
And it takes a lot of work. And so you're on the side, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to do what I need. And then you're not on necessarily the quick cash.
I went into it knowing I wasn't going to make much money.
And so that's different
just
than
gonna,
those.
I knew I was just going to skate by. Even you can, if you ever talk to my loan officer, I told her, I was like, I just need to get out of my 9 to 5. Like I can't proceed in my life whenever I'm stuck at this place working 9 to 5 every day. Because I'm after work, then I have to try and scramble to do everything. But everything's closed, so I only have like an hour to get to wherever I need to go. I'm like, I just need more time. I'm like, I need time where if I need to do whatever during the day, I have that freedom to do it. And so it wasn't the money, it was the freedom to be able to go pursue more opportunity. And I was like, give me the opportunity. I'm going to make it happen. And that's where I'm at right now is I'm trying to make it happen, trying to make the next thing happen.
So what's your big vision? You said you want to be a corporation. Is that multiple gyms or?
No, I want to start a product. I want to get a product that I can advertise to the world. I love
sell a product.
I want to sell a product.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to have some type of product that I sell, something that I'm passionate in. But I want to be able to advertise to the entire world. You know, I want to be able to have a website and be able to sell on Amazon and be able to sell on my website and be able to sell on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And I want to be able to work with different teams all over the place. But yeah, I want to be able to sell a product to Europe, you know, or wherever, or Australia, or send it wherever I want. I think that's where I can make more money. And it's not just more money, but I think it'll give me like, I enjoy business itself. It's such a weird thing to try to even explain to a lot of people because one, I'm still learning what I'm really passionate about, but I'm passionate. Like Ross Blankenship came on my podcast the other day. He's like, what are you passionate about? Like, what do you really like to do? And I'm like, well, this is what I like to do. And I enjoy the process of it all. It's not like, even when I bought the gym, I never celebrated. I was proud of myself. I was happy that I bought it, but I just bought it and got to work and just next thing. Because I was enjoying working on the place. I was enjoying growing the place. And I still love the gym, but I know you can franchise it and turn it into big business, but there's a lot of real estate with it. And it's just like it's a tough business. It's a very tough business. I love it for my community and I will own it until the day that, one, I have a big enough business that I can let it go. I don't have to use it to live off of anymore. But I'm not going to let it go unless I can find someone that's as passionate about it as me. And there is a few guys out there that I think I could hand the reins off to, and they would take care of it as much as I do. But it's the thing that the community really needs, and whoever owns it has to be passionate about it. I won't just give it to someone that has the money that just wants to buy it because they're trying to make a quick buck. Like if I hand that reins off, I'll hand it to somebody that is passionate about it. But yeah, I want to own a corporation that I can work with marketing teams and sales teams, and I want to have a factory where I can, because I remember working in a factory, and I just remember it just being this terrible experience, and I want to change that whole perspective of, if you work in a factory or manufacturing plant, that it doesn't have to be this miserable experience. Yeah, you still got to show up every day and build the product, and there's going to be boring times, but I don't think it shouldn't be like a salt mine where people just talk about how miserable it is. And there's a video I watched that I'm a big fan of, and I can't remember the guy's name. He's from Turkey, so he kind of got a weird name, but it's called The Anti-CEO. It's a TED Talk. It's called The Anti-CEO. Have you ever heard of it, maybe? But he just talked about how he owned a coffee, coffee bar, whatever you want to call it. And he's seen in the newspaper that there's old yogurt, Hamdi, Yuka, I don't know. I'm going to butcher that now. Yeah. Yukaya. Awesome dude, though. But it's called The Anti-CEO. And he seen this yogurt business for sale, and it was in a newspaper, and it was falling apart. And he went up, and basically this business it was 3 generations owned. And the son that was 3rd generation was letting it go. The building was all like falling apart. Everyone there looked miserable. The guy itself, he looked miserable. He wasn't passionate about it like his dad and his grandpa. And so he was just going to let it go, and they were going to shut down no matter what. Like the business was failing. And then he went in, basically found a way to buy it, and he fired all the employees, but he kept the maintenance man. He kept the accountant. He kept like just 4 or 5 of them, and he had a meeting with them, and he's like, I had no plan for it. He's like, all I knew was I wanted to buy this place and turn it around. And so he's like, the first thing we did is like bought the building, and we all, like the attorney, everybody, or not the attorney, the like the treasurer, whoever, they painted the building. He's like, I just went and bought paint, and the first thing we did was paint the building. And then, they fixed up the building, and then they hired a couple of employees. And then eventually they got to the point where they hired all the employees back. And then it ended up being, he ended up growing it to be the point where it was Chobani. So that's, the dude, it was the #1 selling yogurt in the world. He grew it from this little bitty factory to the #1 factory in the world. And he talked about how he brought it to communities. There was a place in Iowa, because his business had grown so much, he took it to this place in Iowa, and he's like, I want to start my business here. Because he bought it in upstate New York. And he found this like place in Iowa that they're like, there's no business here. There's nothing to get anybody here. Like your business is going to fail if he brings it here. And he's like, I'll buy a bus, or I'll set up a bus route where people can get on from the town over and just come on over. And so, he just talks about doing everything untraditional to the way the world is now, and actually paying people right, giving them benefits, and believing in some people. And I like that. I like that part of it too, because I don't know. I just feel like there's so much opportunity in a big business like that versus a small business where I want to hire people and I want to help people out, and I can't even do that because there's not enough money coming in to be able to even help that.
I love that perspective. I mean, even caring about your community with the gym, not just letting it wash up or letting it go to somebody that's going to run it in the ground, to all the way to creating a culture. I think they talk about like being a culture in business now of, what does the culture of your business look like? And does it have to be where the CEO is just making all the money and everybody's working like a salt mine and it's horrible? We have desires, or our vision for our business is kind of similar. As we want people to be happy at their job. Try to pay more than what the current society would tell you to pay, if we can. We try to, instead of grinding, we're looking at opportunities of, just taking days off, making 4-day weekends just randomly for our employees, doing things proactively that are good for people, and not just what makes the most money.
Yeah. Because you can easily get caught up in that.
You can.
And luckily for me, I had to go through a lot of small jobs. Like I worked in factories, and I worked in body shops, and I worked at Subway, and just did these little jobs. And I worked for a lot of people that were just doing it for the money. And I was just another person there. And it's just crazy that you can abuse a person like that.
Right.
And I didn't like that. I didn't think anyone on earth deserved to be treated like that. And I remember that was like a big passion for me. Like I want to be different. I want to show people that you can work somewhere and it be a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody should have to hate their boss. And I don't even like that. I tell anyone that works for me, I'm like, you work with me. I'm an employee here too, to this business. And sure, I got to make some executive decisions every now and then, but I sit down with my only worker right now, and I'm like, are you happy?
Right.
It's like, I try to, micromanage myself and critique myself. And I'm like, am I being too needy sometimes? Or like, am I micromanaging you sometimes? And I try to make sure I give her freedom, but I make sure I try to hear her out and just make sure that I'm not requesting too much out of her on a daily basis. And I think that's very important. And like you said, giving them that extra day off. Or the other day I just went in and I gave her a $100 bonus. And because I had been doing my podcast so much, and I had been out of the office, and she had been running the place basically full. I mean, I was still going in every day, but I had other things that I was doing to try to make money and grow. And I'm like, thank you so much for just being here and working so hard and taking care of the little stuff. So I'm like, here's a bonus. And, I hope it just at least makes your week. Right. Just anything to make it better.
Yeah, and even just having that mindset of, I guess, consideration for the employees heads you down the right path. So it sounds like you prefer retail over service industry, though, or your preference is retail.
Yeah.
It sounds like, or your passion maybe.
I don't like trading my time for money because that's a hard way to do it. I when I was doing auto body, I was just trading. I was literally just sacrificing my body, basically, in exchange for money, and it's tough. It's a lot easier to sell a product, in my opinion, because you can put your time in. There's always time that has to be put in, but you can receive a lot more benefit from it, which I could go on vacation with it. I could buy a new car with it, but I could also hand it back because I donate. I try to donate to any sporting event in the Owensville community or surrounding communities, but I try to be involved in a lot of the businesses and a lot of local events. And you can give it back to, like I was able to give my employee a bonus because I'm able to sell more product. I didn't actually have, like it's a lot easier to give her that bonus whenever we're selling more product just because I'm advertising the more product. It just makes life easier to be able to, it's just a better tool in my opinion versus having to, the only way I can make money is if I put in a 12, 15-hour day.
I never thought about that. The difference between, or the benefits to retail is that you're not sacrificing your body in the same way. Because, that has been the kind of the trajectory that I've always had to do being a lawyer is every minute that I work is what I get paid for. And so it's all about you. And now it's how do we transition out of that, or how do you make more money? Because you only have so many hours in a day or so much you can expend. And so how do you build a company where other people are helping you do services, you keep up the same quality, and you're not dying from all the time? And so I definitely see the perks of the retail side. And I definitely get the passion. So my second son, he's totally business minded. Sounds just like you. So it helps me understand where you're at. He wanted to get some chickens. He thought he would start a chicken egg business. And so he saved up his birthday money, bought 10 chickens. They started laying eggs, and then he calls them Jay's eggs. And so then he started selling eggs. And he would sell all of them, saved up all of that money, and then he bought a candy machine and put a candy machine at Pioneer, and then he's getting money from that because he said, I need to make money where I'm not working and I'm not doing I'm just sitting here. So that's why he bought the candy machine. And then he took the money from that and he's bought another candy machine and put it at Auto Care. And so he's got both of those and his egg business going. He doesn't spend any of his money. He just stockpiles it all and then saves it up. And then the other day we were at the wrestling match and I had to work the concession stand. And he's like, I'll go do it with you. And he was just living life in there, like having fun. And afterwards I was like, so how was that? He's like, I really like just business, just doing that. He's like, I just liked talking to people and exchanging, giving them something, them giving me money back, just that whole process. And he was just lit up about it. And I was like, I don't get that. I don't like working the concession stand. But yeah, man, he loved it.
Well, because that's something I found too, is that whenever I got in the business, I actually one of my favorite parts of the day is talking to the people that come in the gym. I love helping them. I love talking to them. Now, some days, I went in the other day and I 8 hours for 8 hours straight, all I did was talk. I got nothing else done. All I did for 8 hours was talk. But I do really enjoy helping people in that aspect too. And I love meeting the new people that come on. And that's also why I love this podcast. I get to meet new people and people teach me things. So I love that aspect of it too. But yeah, it's I don't know, something about it. You got to be an extrovert though.
It's true. You
gotta enjoy it. But I always thought I was an introvert for the longest time until I got into a business that I was doing something that I liked. And so the people that were coming in, now they're coming into the gym and they're talking about the gym and they're talking about my business and they're talking about my products that I'm selling. And so it was a lot easier for me to talk about something that I was passionate about. And so, yeah, it was all of a sudden now I'm loving it, and it's made my life so much better.
I think for me it's similar for that because we'll have some issue come up and Amber will be like, hey, can't you just argue with this salesperson or like negotiate down the sale price because that's what you do all the time. I'm like, I have no desire to do that. Like, I do not like to do that. I don't even care if it's like overpriced or like you're at a yard sale and you're supposed to negotiate down or anything. That is like, I do not like that.
Really?
And it's weird but in my business, when I'm doing it on behalf of somebody else, like if I'm negotiating a settlement, I get a thrill out of that for somebody else. But if it's for me, no, don't like doing it. I would rather just pay the top price and
What? I wonder what that is.
I don't know, but it's kind of the similar idea as you of like, if you're doing it in your area of what you like you said, as long as I'm talking about what I like, then I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I'm comfortable when I'm doing stuff on behalf of somebody else.
Is it
I can fight really zealously for somebody else, but for myself,
is it the thought of helping them?
I think so. I'm like, okay, I can do this because I'm helping somebody else. I'm doing something good for somebody else.
Yeah.
Here, I feel like, I've never really analyzed it, but maybe I feel like it's selfish or something if I'm going. But
you're beating them down to their
I'm
price.
using my tools for a selfish reason, something like that. But
I love that kind of. I don't know why, but I love being able to buy something. That was my first hustle, was flipping cars. So to be able to go and find a way to get a deal on a car, negotiate it down, was so thrilling to me. I could see that though, because at some point I couldn't do it on cards, but I also looked at it as value. I looked at the value of something, and I'm like, what's the value? And I didn't. Like if I knew the value of something was $100, I would not try to negotiate down to 75. But a lot of cars online, I just looked for undervalued cars that were literally beat up, and they would have it priced at maybe $1,500, and I would go there and try to negotiate down to $1,000 because I'm like, once this is fixed, it's worth $1,500. But in this state, it's not. And so I tried to find like the diamond in the rough, basically, and that's how in my head I was justifying it, because I'm like, it's not like it was a nice car, because I've seen some people do that too, and it's hard. It is hard to watch that. There's a gentleman that I used to know that he told me about. He would just go and nitpick everything. He nitpicked the tires and nitpicked the paint, and he would just beat someone down and make them feel like their car is just worthless. And then that's how he got it. I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
Because that's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
It really is.
Have you thought about getting into any of the coaching stuff? Coaching's really big now. Like coaching, there's pretty much coaching on everything, but where people, come to you and you can coach them. Like they say, I'm starting a small business. Here's the issues I'm going through. And so there's people that are like, well, let me talk you through your perspective from another's outside perspective. Have you gotten into any of that yet?
I think that's where the podcast kind of comes in. Mm-hmm. It's another... Because a lot of people are like, why do you do the podcast? And there's a lot of reasons. And I think everything I do in life, there's a lot of reasons for it. But I think the reason I want to bring people on is because I bring a lot of business owners on, and I ask a lot of business questions, is I want to be able to give the information back to the world. And I don't think anyone would buy a course from me, but maybe if I put the information out for free, it would help someone else that is starting up.
Right.
So I think it's something that I think I could make money off of a following, but I could help people for free by making the videos. So making the videos and putting the information out is free to the entire world, which is what I like. I like that the information's there free, but then also that's why I tell people like, hey, you should subscribe because it helps me grow, and that's where I get paid. So, someone maybe that follows along, likes the way I do business and my information. Now I've never done direct courses, like directly made videos, but there's a lot of, I bring on attorneys and I bring on SEO marketing people and I bring on social media marketing people and just different people from different businesses and ask them how they do it. And if that helps them, then great.
Right.
And so that was a big reason for me wanting to do it, not only for myself to learn, but also to be able to in turn, because there is times where like the books that I read, I'll make little clips. I'll just make a short video and I'll be like, I remember I did a small business tip of the day, and I would just put a small business tip out, and I'm like, if it helps one person, it's worth it to me, because that's how I started to learn.
Right.
School didn't help me out. Like school wasn't teaching me it. No one in particular was teaching me it. A lot of small business owners are greedy, and the fact that they don't want you to know their secrets. because they think you're going to go and steal their business and steal their money. And in my eyes, I'm like, there's so much money in this world that there's like whatever, you know. And I'm not. I'll tell anybody any information about my gym because at the end of the day, it still takes money. It's still a risk, and you got to be willing to work harder than me to outcompete me. And that's one thing I know is that, you know, I'll work as hard as I got to work to make something happen.
And there's always the people side of it. Like, you could take your same setup and put a different person in there other than you, and it just fail. Because there is a people aspect of it, of like connection, liking you, you know, your community perspective. That's why you see people take over a restaurant off the same menu or different things, and it still fail. I mean, it's just, you know, the energy of the culture or the just how, you know, just the people connection. So I'm kind of the same way. I'll be open with people to tell them, you know, ideas. Other lawyers call me, I'll tell them, here, this is the way I do it, or here's a strategy for this. Because at the end of the day, there's still the finesse of who you are that helps you be the business.
There's been times where I've tried to say I'm getting into like billboards, or there was one time I was thinking about buying a lot and turning it into RV storage. So I was going to put up a big fence and then just enclose it where it's not heated or electric or nothing, but you could park your vehicle. There would be an open side and then there'd be a closed in side where you could park an RV under it. I was just going to buy a big lot and fence it in, but I didn't know nothing about it, how much a lot got charged, nothing. And there really wasn't a lot around here at the time. And it really still isn't. There's still I think there's still an opening for something like that if someone could find a good lot for it. But I had called a couple of guys, and like I just Google RV storage parking, and I look for one that's similar to mine, of my idea, and then just call them and say, hey, I'm interested in starting this business. I'm nowhere near you. Can you help me out a little bit? And I had a lot of no's, and I had some yeses too. You know, some people are like, man, I ain't got the time. And I'm like, okay, no biggie. You know, I'm just trying to figure it out. But I even with the gym, when I started the gym, I did the same thing.
It's amazing because you know, in my career, there were some lawyers that were the same way. There were some lawyers that just did not help me out, that should have. They were in a position where they could have, when I was first starting out, could have really helped me. And I was not competing with them, not in the same ballpark, but we had connections. They should have helped me out. They didn't. And then I had a couple other guys. I had a guy down in Joplin that I'd never met before, had a very similar case. I called him up. He just dumped information on me, kind of helped me. And then over the next few years, like we developed a relationship where he was just helping me. And I had never even met the guy in person. And he became kind of like a mentor on a lot of stuff. And even this today, he still, you know, gives me stuff. And I've met him now, but it's just interesting.
Is there anyone that has came to you that you've helped out like that?
For sure. Yeah, because now in my mind, it was such an impact to how the person that I thought should be helping me that wasn't, and then somebody else that didn't even know me was helping me so much. I mean, it was so kind of was a fork in the road for me that I'm like, anytime anybody comes to me, I'm gonna try to be there and hear them and help them.
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
because whenever I've gained a lot of followers because of my gym. I'm like followers of guys in the world that want to open their own gym, young boys or young men that see a gym as a goal in their life that they want to try to open one time, sometime in their life. And I've had a lot of them reach out to me. And I remember calling a company in St. Louis and be like, hey, I got this problem. I'm out in Owensville, Missouri. You probably never heard of it, but I'm out in Owensville, Missouri. And I just started a gym. I got these problems. And the gentleman helped me out, and he gave me all kinds of information. And now I have people reach out to me from social media. And there's times where the people have reached out to me, and I've sent them my number, and I'm like, hey, you just want to call me? I'll help you out. Make a list of questions. I'll help you out. You can do it. And I love it.
There's, like you said, there's enough money and enough customers and enough everything to go around, and you know, showing people that kind of love and connection goes a long way. I mean, it's creates a better dynamic for your own business and all of that, I think.
And even competition is good. I think. I don't know if a gym opened up next to me, I don't think I would like it too much, but it's going to make me work harder. It's going to make me get out of bed every day and be like, okay, what am I going to do to make this place better so this place doesn't run me out of business? Like I said, I don't think I'd ideally like it, but I think that's if there maybe a business that because there's no competition in their area, they can do the bare minimum and get away with it, and that's where it's good to have someone else come in and challenge it and make them step up their game. Because in my opinion, I think the gyms in Owensville really needed to step up their game. They're able to get away with just the bare minimum because there's nobody to challenge them. So right. I think there's in a lot of small towns, there's a lot of small businesses that are getting away with things they shouldn't be doing, or minimal crap effort, and someone needs to just come in and compete with them. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, yeah, you can start that business. You can start that because I'm like, I look at the business that's in the community and that everybody has to rely on. Everybody talks how they hate it, but nobody else is willing to go out and start.
And they're the only one.
Yeah. So I'm like, you could easily do that and outcompete them.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of where we're at. I mean, yeah, I guess there's an extreme. The next door or something like that could be the extreme. But for the most part, I mean, we're kind of the same way. We're like, we're probably going to do a better job anyway. Or people are going to come to us because of who we are anyway. And it's just going to push us to do better as well. Harder. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you guys are an hour away, basically. And my attorney that I had picked was next door to the business I was working in. So it made life easy for me. I'd literally just walk next door, and whatever problem I had, I could tell him, like, hey, he would help me with my first rental eviction. But the quality just wasn't there. And so that's one thing I learned in business is quality sells every time. Yeah. If it's crap, you might get one sale out of it.
Right.
But people aren't coming back.
The quick sale, that was an old model, I think, years ago for retail or, even services. Oh, we'll do, it makes me think of, there was a business in St. Louis that would sell like internet provider where they get the quick sale, they get you hooked, and then slowly your prices would go up and what they were offering would go down. I think people are seeing through that now. They're like, we want quality. We want to come back. We want you to fix. If we have something that's from you that's not good, we want you to fix it, or we'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah. They go to the quality.
That's right. And then in the long run, you're creating a better. It's something that more people are going to come to that's going to last longer, for sure. I mean, people chase quality now, I think.
Yeah. I had to learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
Like when I was working on cars and I was buying cheap tools, I was buying cheap parts, and I buy double the amount of parts, still spend the same amount of money, even with the podcast here. I bought a bunch of other stuff that was cheaper and find out that it sucked.
Right.
And so then now I got to go back out and I got to spend the money for the nice stuff that I should have bought originally. So now I got all this extra money in it. And every time I'm like, damn it. I should have just bought the quality. Yeah, I should have just bought the quality. So now I'm very hesitant on, I'm like, I just got to wait. But it's my impatience that makes me buy the cheaper thing because I'm like, I can afford this now, so I'm just going to do it.
Right.
But even on like a smaller scale, when I was selling products at my gym, I was like, yeah, I can buy some cheap products and sure, everyone will buy them, but then they're not going to want to come back because, when you buy a protein shake and nobody wants to take a protein shake anyway, and they drink it and it's clumpy and it tastes like crap and it's just not good quality, they're never going to buy it again because they're like, I didn't want to spend the money on it anyway, but I did because I thought it was going to help me with my health. And then they're like, it sucks, I'm not buying it anymore. But at least if you buy good quality and it's a little bit more, they're like, well, at least it tasted good. And sure, it's $10 more, but at least it's good quality.
Even on the business side too, the hard thing is you sell the cheap product, people don't like it, and then you put good product on later, they won't buy the good product because now they don't.
They're fearful of that.
Yeah, there's a loss of trust there.
Yeah. Do you remember when I started that Wilson Fitness Supply? Mm-hmm. Did you help me write the contract on that? Yeah, I thought that was going to be such an easy business because for me, I was selling product and I was killing it, and I'm like, and there's no distributors
Right.
for the products in Missouri. And a lot of gyms didn't have products. And I was like, I could do this for sure. I could just become a distributor for it. But that's what ended up happening. All these gyms had been sold supplements by these cheap supplement companies, and they were all burned. They had hundreds and thousands of dollars in bad product they couldn't get rid of, and they just sat around. And
Nobody trusted them anymore.
nobody trusted it. They didn't even care to look at this product I was bringing in because they had been burned so badly from these other companies. And some of them did. Some of them still had their old product like in their office, and they would show me like, I have this product. I can't even get rid of it. And they're like, I don't think it'll move. Or I've seen some of them where they had Redcon. You ever heard of Redcon supplements? Redcon was like a really bad one. It was a multi-level marketing style thing.
That's always a red flag.
Yeah, exactly. And someone has put a ton of money into marketing and advertising and getting it up to make it just to the level it's sellable. And they did a good job because the multi-level marketing, you get friends and family to buy into it. And I seen Redcon was in a lot of stores and they were crap. And the owners are like, we can't sell this stuff. Our customers aren't buying supplements. I'm like, no, your customers aren't buying bad supplements.
Right.
But after I literally went to every gym in a 100-mile radius. And I realized that a lot of these gyms were not passionate about what they were doing. And they had been burned in the past, and they had been doing it much longer than me, so they were burnt out. And they had stuck around in that small business for too long, and they struggled for too long. And now, just like someone that maybe has worked somewhere for 20 years and they hate their job, this person has worked this gym for 20 years, has made minimal money, but their pride wouldn't let them change their business or go into a different business. And so now they just stayed there and struggle, and they had no interest in it. And that's when I realized, I'm like, okay, I just jumped ship before it was too late. Like I was like, before I get too wrapped up in this and waste too much time on it, I'm like, I'm just going to fold it, realize that, hey, maybe it wasn't the best. Maybe it wasn't the best business. For me, it kills. Like for me, it's at least a quarter of my sales, maybe even a third of my sales.
There may be that trust there, though. I mean, you haven't burnt everybody. Is the difference? You didn't sell the Redcon, so
Yeah, I think it was just going to take so much effort for me to gain the trust.
Right, exactly.
First, and I was just like, I knew it wasn't. I thought it was just going to be another revenue stream. Like I was going to be able to. It wasn't something I was super passionate about. I knew it would help gyms. I knew it would help people in gyms, and that's where my passion was behind it. And I was already buying the product, so I'm like, I'll just buy more of the product and then pay someone to distribute it. I thought I could help people out, but I wasn't passionate enough about it to keep pursuing it.
And you had to overcome the trust of the gym. You know, if I go to whatever gym, the YMCA or whatever, and they've sold me bad product, even if a new person comes in as a customer, I'm like, I'm not going to.
Yeah, they're not even looking at the products.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're just walking by it, and you're trying not to make eye contact with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a salesman. I do not push my products on anyone. My products sit there. They have prices on it. They're advertising and marketing themselves. That's a big reason why I like the product. But you will not see me pushing products on people. I advertise them on my website. And if somebody asks, like if I see someone out there looking in the case and they're kind of, if someone's just walking by and they just kind of look at it and glance at it, I just let it go. But if someone's out there staring at it and they're kind of looking in there, I'll be like, hey, can I help you with anything? And they're like, I'm just looking for now. I'm like, okay, if you need help with anything, I'll help you.
Right.
But I'm not trying to like sell anybody some product. There's some guys that come in the gym. One gentleman in particular, I know he's a caffeine addict. He loves caffeine, and I've even told him like, you drink way too much caffeine, but I'm not going to change him. Like he's gonna if I don't sell him something, he's gonna go somewhere else and buy it anyway. So whenever I get a new product in, we have one it's called DBAB, and it's like it's the highest stimulant pre-workout on the market right now. It has 547 milligrams of caffeine in it.
Wow.
It's a ton of caffeine. But I know he loves caffeine, and so I'm like, hey man, you should try this stuff, because he's looking for something like that anyway. And so things like that I'll sell just because if I know they're interested in, or maybe someone that buys protein from me every month, then I might be like, hey, we got this new flavor in, you might like to try it or mix it up. But I think that's just also just being nice because, like I said, they're going to buy it anyway.
You're basically not pushing people to buy stuff they don't need.
Yeah, I'm not trying to convince somebody that they need to take. That's what I tell people all the time is I'm like, when they're looking at it and they're kind of thinking about getting the supplements and they ask for my opinion of, hey, I'm looking to get some supplements. I'm looking to get into it. What do you think I should start taking? And I'm like, well, what's your diet like? Because these supplements are literally that. They're a supplement for your diet. The protein powder is no different than eating chicken. The pre-workout is no different than drinking a coffee. Multivitamins and multivitamins. There's all these things here you can get in your diet, but they just found a way to make it in a powder form where you can put it in your shaker cup right after you're done working out or while you're working out and drink it. You don't have to carry a bucket of chicken around with you right when you're done working out and eat it to get your protein source in. So I'm like, if you get the amount of protein you need in a day and you drink a coffee before you come in here, you don't need this stuff. Like you don't need it. But if you're a construction worker and you're on the road for 12 hours a day and then you're passing the gym on your way home and you just want to be able to have a tub in your car where you can put a scoop of pre-workout in there and get some caffeine so you can make it through the gym for the evening, here's a product for you. This is where the convenience comes in. So, yeah, there's a lot of times where I even tell people, I'm like, yeah, you can drink a coffee. You don't have to buy this product.
Right.
So I even tell people that too. I'm like, I'm a gym. I sell gym memberships. The supplements are just something I added to help you guys out. Like something I think belong in a gym. Anyone that goes to a gym typically buys supplements. Why would I not have them here to offer to you guys? Because we don't have a supplement store in our area. And same thing with wraps. I just offer wraps because I know people get elbow injuries and knee injuries, and I know the need for it. I know that there's no muscle in your elbow, and so these guys are pushing 350. They're benching all this heavy weight, and their chest is this massive muscle, and their biceps and triceps are these massive muscles that they're pushing it, and then they got these elbows that are trying to hold this weight up and bench 315 for 8 reps, and I'm like, yeah. After a while, it starts to hurt your elbows or hurt your knees because guys are squatting too much or something. So there's always they're needing stuff like that, and it's like, why would I not offer it? Because if I don't offer it, they're going to go buy it from somewhere else.
Sounds like you want a product that sells itself, and then you manage all the process of getting it out to everybody. Mm-hmm. It sounds like
I certainly do.
Yeah,
I certainly do because I love marketing, but I don't want to have to market every day.
Right.
Right now, I try to advertise every day for my business. I think it's important, but I can't do it every day. And I run into roadblocks where I'll see a video and I'm like, I want to do that, but I can't duplicate it because I'm not a photographer. And I can't do the same thing the photographers do. And it's like I would love to have a marketing team where they can help me do it, where there's a photographer in it, a videographer in it. And I also want someone that can, I don't want to always have to do the financials side of it all. I don't want to have to always write every check and
right.
pay every single bill because that's a big responsibility on me too, to always have to. I have a checklist of everything to make sure I'm got all my billboards paid, all my rentals paid, and make sure everybody's paid me. And it's a huge
drain on time.
It is.
Energy.
And to try to do it all yourself is very hard.
Yeah.
And I want to get to a point where it's not all about the money to me.
Right.
I like those things. They help bring some money in, but yeah, I'm perfectly fine with paying somebody else for some of it. That doesn't bother me at all. It gives me the freedom that I want to go and do something like this.
Right.
Because I love something like this. If I can do 10 of these a week, this is what I would be doing.
This is the fun stuff.
This is the fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Well, you think we should wrap it up?
Yeah, it's been good. I've had a good time.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a great time, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. One thing I wish we would have got to is I know you're big into scuba diving.
I am. I love scuba. Actually, that's
your new passion?
That's my new passion.
Well,
I need to move somewhere warmer.
Yeah, I know it. Would you move to Florida?
I don't know. I always ask myself, why do people live in Missouri if you don't already have roots here? So I would
maybe
consider if I didn't have hurdles, yes.
Sure.
If I didn't have other roots.
Well, I had thought about it before you came on. I was like, I really like to talk about it, but
Part two.
Yeah. The first time I bring anyone on, I love to just introduce who they are, get people to know them, and there's things that I never, you know, I don't get to talk to some people about like some deep down things, some like long form stuff. So that's where this podcast comes in, because I've learned some stuff about you today that I never knew.
Yeah, same here.
So it's a lot of fun.
It's cool.
Can I get you to sign my banner too?
Yeah, definitely.
And then we can wrap it up. Thank you so much. If you guys are still listening, make sure you guys like and subscribe as well. It's going to help me grow. Right now, we're at 326 for subscribers. We're trying to get to 1,000.